Here someplace.
Approval of minutes from the previous meeting.
I'll make a motion that we approve July 17th and July 21st minutes.
We do them separate because I got abstain.
Okay, I'll make a motion to just go ahead and approve July 17th minutes.
Okay, the motion's been made to approve. Are there any additions or corrections? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
This time I'll make a motion to approve July 21st minutes.
The motion has been made to approve the July 21st meeting. Any
Okay.
additions or corrections? Any corrections? You said, what you said you had?
No, I abstain.
Oh, okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Abstain.
Input on number 3, input on agenda items by the public. Is there anybody here that has anything they want to say? Now's your time to say it.
Alright. Go ahead, you can go.
All right, I'm Ken Nodoff. I was here last year and talked to you. I'm here about a water issue at 533 County Road E. I brought pictures last year of the flooding that occurs in my barnyard because of a drainage issue. The history of this is I purchased my property in '97. When I purchased it, the water flowed through a culvert to the east, across the property on the east side into woods. Split Gavers bought the property, built a house, and plugged the flow of water. That left the water to sit in the east ditch on their side, the west ditch on my side, and what couldn't sit in those ditches ended up in my barnyard. And the picture showed you that the barnyard completely floods, right up to the apron around the barn. After that, the Split Gavers and the neighbors to the south started filling in the ditch, which is illegal. The neighbor to the south actually had a load of dirt dumped in the ditch. And then this year he's placed sod in the ditch right near the culvert, so basically no water goes south of the culvert. It's a pretty level ditch. The Split Gavers have taken a slower but just as effective method of filling in their part of the ditch. They put sod from landscaping projects in the ditch. They let weeds grow up, mow them down, which fills in the ditch. And every time he mows the lawn, he blows all of the clippings into the ditch. You may not think that's very effective, but in the two previous years, I've hauled 12 construction size wheelbarrow loads of material out of that ditch in an effort to try and keep it open so some of the water goes over there. Last year I decided that's your job, not mine, so I quit doing it. I have pictures of that. I have pictures of the guy filling the sod, and this year I have video of him doing it. So they're illegally filling in the ditch, forcing the water back on my side. 2 years ago, I made phone calls about this. My first phone call, I was met with, unless the water flows over the road, we're not doing anything about it. Well, if the water flows over the road, it's gonna be 3 feet deep in my barn. That's just how high the road is. I was also told that if I wanted something done about it, I should hire a lawyer and sue my neighbors. Not my job to enforce the law, it's yours. When I said, okay, well, piece of information about the situation. I have two driveways. I have the old milk house driveway above the culvert, and then I have my house driveway. In between those two driveways, there's a 12-foot piece of ditch that is too steep to save remote. When I was told that nothing was gonna be done about them filling in their ditch, I said, okay, then I'm filling in that ditch to make it safe to mow. Seemed reasonable. That's when I was told the law would be enforced against me. If you fill in that ditch, we'll come after you. So not gonna do anything about illegally filling in a wet ditch on the other side of the road, but come after me and fill in a dry one. That's got my ire up. That's when I started coming here. John told me originally that the water in the east ditch should flow north. And then later he told me that to dig that ditch out that deep, be too deep, too steep, so it couldn't be done. I think you might have been the one last year that said you were gonna investigate whether the water could be made to flow back across the Split Gators property, and I assume nothing happened, so that couldn't be done. I understand that. Last year, Bob made the comment that he thought this was a not in your backyard sort of problem, and he was right and he was wrong. It is that sort of problem, but he aimed that at me. It's not in my backyard sort of problem, it's Split Gators problem. They're just trying to force it back on me. And right now, the way I see it, the only solution that's practical is to go over there, dig out the east ditch. It's a pretty level ditch on their side. It can be dug quite deeply, but it will still not be anywhere near as deep as what is cut on my side. So they hold an equitable amount of water so that my barnyard doesn't fill up like a lake. Never was a wet barnyard, not a drop in 97 until they built their house. You could dig out both north and south. The guy to the south really broke the law when he dumped that dirt in there, and make them hold an equitable share of the water. And then force the law on them so they don't fill it back in like they've been doing. And the situation will be solved. It will be equitable. I'm not saying I shouldn't have any water anytime like I used to, but they shouldn't be able to force it on me. And quite frankly, if you're not gonna enforce the law on them, if you're not gonna make them take any of the water that used to be all of their problem, then I'm expecting you won't enforce it on me. So next spring, if nothing's been done, I'm gonna fill in that dry ditch till I can mow it. And then I'm gonna take my skid steer down to the wet part of the ditch and dig it out so it holds some of the water they're forcing back on me, so that it doesn't all end up in my barnyard like it never did before. Fair is fair. Enforce the law on them or leave me alone too. I don't see any other way out of it. If you do, I'd like to hear it. But I'm done cleaning out their ditch. I'm done having my barnyard be a lake because they broke the law. And I'm not coming back here. This has been 2 years. I looked up my notes, 8/3/21 was the first time I called, and nothing has been done. They've been breaking the law for 2 years. The guy to the south has just been absolutely breaking the law. His ditch is as flat as this table. Nothing flows this way. We could dig that out, hold every bit of water that's been in my barnyard. And quite frankly, I'm 72. I doubt it'll ever reach my barn in the time I've got left, but it's a justice issue, it's a fairness issue. I should have never been told to hire a lawyer. The law should have been enforced on them when they started filling it in. And I'm gonna do what I can to make it fair. Thank you for your time, your consideration. Like I said, if nothing's done, I'm gonna do what I can to make it fair for me. So, thank you. Have a good day. I'm gonna leave this with you, some more notes I had, but I'm done. If something can be done, if law isn't law, then I get to do what I wanna do too. You know, telling me I have to hire a lawyer is like saying the guys that speed by my house at 3 o'clock when the factory's out, I should hire a lawyer and fine them myself. That's stupid. Thank you.
Does anybody from the committee have any questions of them?
We have discussion on number 9, unless you want more discussion now.
Okay, very good.
I got a comment on what that gentleman just said. I believe, last month, this same issue come up with you guys. That this dirt was getting dumped in this right away. I thought you guys said something that you guys actually said that maybe Bob should take a piece of equipment over there and clean that out. Now that's 4 weeks. This guy's been dealing with this issue for 2 years. I've been dealing with mine for 13. So, why didn't it get done? You know, like with the culverts going underneath the E, you know, that was, you guys were gonna have that inspected, or Bob was gonna have that inspected, you know? It didn't get done. That hole grew bigger next to the county road E, you know, on that gravel right away. Or not gravel right away, but yeah.
The
you know, that
shoulder,
got bigger. I don't think nobody,
the shoulder,
yeah, the shoulder part. That's a safety hazard, you know, I was cutting my ditch next to my culvert. And the back of my zero turn fell down, you know, right down to where it almost stopped the blades on the zero turn, so this water is really working really good this year on eating around these culverts, you know. I just, for next month's agenda, I just want an update on what you guys talked about last month with, having a company come out there about tile. You asked about the culvert inspected, when that was done, be nice if you guys actually get that information, maybe Bob got it to you when that culvert was inspected last. I wasn't realizing that all the culverts get inspected every year. You guys approved in March to have them come out, do a little more grass cutting. The grass is growing up a little bit more. Be nice to get that couple more times for Labor Day. And then once in the fall, before everything starts to freeze. Like, you know, we put in for the spirit fund, you know, that money is gonna get down there, and just wanna make sure that this stuff's gonna get put on maybe the budget for next year to get a look at it, you know, I don't like coming every month to explain this stuff, but I know you guys drive by my house probably quite a bit, but, you know, that eating up around the next to the blacktop track, you know, blacktop here, that's a very serious issue. Sooner or later, that's just gonna collapse altogether, you guys are gonna have buses in there. But, I just wanna keep the ball rolling, you guys are doing a good job on, you know, improving stuff to get it done, we just gotta make sure that it's getting done in a timely manner, you know, so. That's all I got to say about it, but that's pretty hard to say if that poor guy is. You guys knew 4 weeks ago that people were dumping in dirt in there.
Number 4, discussion update on county pump II project.
so we recently completed that mill and overlay on double I from 45 to the West County line. I believe crews are out there, we finished up shouldering and center lining that, so that project is completed now. So it's kind of just an update on that project there before. Ready for next.
Number 5, discussion update on county highway F project.
So F, we have September 11th, the mill will be out to start on that project. That's when we have that scheduled. So that out there about just over 4 miles out there, so we'll get that milled off and put back in overlay. On that, That's as soon as we could get that mill for that project, so everything's just based upon Northeast coming in for that mill part, so. Just an update on that. Statement.
The sixth discussion on highway JJ project.
So, same situation, so once we get done with milling on, F, we will go right to double J. So that'll be from 76 down to the roundabout that was constructed last year. So in that area, we'll have the new roundabout, double J out to 76 will be paved. And then we did complete that CB paving, also, so that whole corridor there should, that'll tie in nicely with that, with this, once it's completed. So
How many days is that gonna be?
the milling part,
JJ?
it's 2 miles, they should be able to get that in a day, mill that off in a day. It may be a day and a half at the most. So,
Discussion update on Tony Highway Key Pioneer project.
so the T project, obviously last week at county board, the funding was approved, for that, to finish that. And for the overage on that, so next step is gonna be, I'm gonna try to get a hold of the engineer today, to set up a meeting with Radke, to coordinate that project, finish that up. So there's, with going through with the engineer in there, I mean, 3 weeks, we should be done with that, and wrap that up over there. They do have punch list items that they need to address on the rest of the project. And I've been in contact with the homeowners up there with that, so we have a list of those punch list items that'll be added in, with the finish of that project, so. Like I said, as soon as we can get them scheduled in there, like I said, looking at 3 weeks to knock that out and wrap that out.
Chuck,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I went up there and looked at that, and the drainage is running into the new intersection of T and Pioneer. And they actually have a big hole they dug in there. I assume the hole's gonna be filled in and the drainage is gonna run to either the creek or a ditch that runs to that creek.
Correct. So the pipes are already under, the road. So that whole triangular piece, so that was the old existing roadway.
Yeah,
So we
dug it out,
excavated
put a
all
hole
that
in there.
out. So yeah, so all that would be, it'll be contoured. All to run in under that pipe, and it'll go north into that drainage way.
Oh, north, they're gonna run it back the other way.
Yeah, so it's all
Okay,
from,
alright.
so with that
I
curve,
thought they'd run it south and over. to
No.
There's a drainage ditch that goes east-west through there.
no, it'll be going through that north, it'll be all contoured in there. Oh, so yeah,
And that's what he hasn't got done yet. And there were concrete culverts over there.
correct. Yep, so that needs to be completed and a little bit of the roadway, old County Road T. And then just the remainder of that roadway on T. So it's just 2 little stubs, maybe 300-400 feet each direction, approximately. So yeah,
Would it be accurate to say the total cost overrun on the bid project was about 900,000?
yes,
Yep, substantial.
which from the engineer, if they would run that project, that'd be right in that ballpark. I mean, the subsoil that was bad, that's one of them that you wouldn't know till you excavate that. That's just one of those that until you peel that road up, you're not gonna know what's under there. But I mean, asphalt prices and all that,
Well, I would tie that in, but we bid it 17, was it?
yes, 17.
And when we actually got on the job was sometime later. So you
Correct.
got a high inflationary period between the two dates.
Correct.
Would that be something we'd have to look at as somewhat of unusual situation and do our best to get contractors in as ASAP, so we don't have this in the future.
Sure. I mean, one thing is that, you know, when these projects, when you go for funding, these projects, we're starting those, you know, 4 to 5 years in advance. That's
Now,
how
you're
long that
talking
process.
federal and state funding.
Correct, correct. So when you look at those projects from design, the conceptual plan to design to actual construction, yeah, you're gonna have that lag time in there. From over the years, there's never been an issue with those construction prices always held until that construction time. This is just one of those times, I mean, every project across the state or the country, or they're running into the same thing. You know, it's just one of those, I would hope at some time this levels out and goes back the way it used to be. But I'm working with finance now, so we're gonna be looking at updates every few months and updating that part of it. So if we do see increases in fuel prices or materials, we'll get a better graph. They're not gonna get that far out. So I mean, like, even with that project, I mean, the day we signed the contract, they were already putting change orders in for the price of the pipe. They already went up. So we signed the contract, those prices were good. By the time they got it, signed it and everything, the prices were no good. So that's how it just snowballs. And to be able to predict that, I mean, we still don't, we get 1 week on prices and that's it.
Perhaps at it's not on the agenda, but perhaps at a future meeting date.
Sure.
We can explain to the committee how these contracts work, the impact of change order, is that what you said? And how that affects the contract, and a little more general overview of how these change orders can be put into place and added to a contract. I'd certainly be interested in that.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question. Didn't seem like you have talked to Radke's yet. How long are you gonna wait before Radke's?
Oh, we've been in contact with them. It's
Well, it
just,
sounded like we just were talking before, you said, well, I have to get a hold of Radke's.
well, so that's when we'll sit down with exactly and nail down all when the start dates and everything. You know, to sit down and they want firm dates. If I didn't get the funding, I had no idea where we were gonna go from there.
Because winter's coming before long, there won't be any blacktop and you'll be sitting with another project that's not done over the winter. But we know how Radke's have been working for us,
Sure.
so
Yeah, we're gonna do our best to,
what's gonna happen if Radke's don't get this done?
well, I mean, one thing is when we do this, we're gonna have to, look at that contract again. I mean, there's gonna have to been, make, revisions to that. So, I mean, we're gonna have hard dates in there. And then whether it's, you know, monetary fines after that. I mean,
We thought we had hard dates before, but we didn't, so I'm just asking what happens if they don't.
I guess I'm not a
Can the
lawyer.
county, will the county be able to go ahead and finish it out, or we're gonna have to go ahead and get
Oh,
a different contractor?
I mean, yeah, if it push comes to shove, yeah, our crews will go in there, correct.
You're only looking at an inch and a half top layer on a blacktop, right?
Yes, well, we do have
Based
some there is some excavation, there's ditching, you know, that stuff, which, you know, yeah, if it comes to that, yes, our crews will go in there and finish that, if they do that, yeah.
So will that Washburn Road always be a washboard, or are we gonna be able to smooth that out a little bit?
I mean,
Is it the way it is, the way it is the way it's gonna be?
I mean, I can overlay it again, mill and overlay, I guess, I don't know what else.
Tell me further where you're talking about.
Yeah,
Up near the,
I didn't notice that, and I rolled it
up near the corner where the old T came in,
up by double I.
no, down towards the other end. It's like this.
Yeah,
It's terrible.
that's because what they did is they cut off the last layer of blacktop, because it was put in layers. And that wasn't finished. You'll notice there's a lip about like an inch dimensions and that. So I assume if you're talking.
No, there's like 6 or 8 of these.
Oh, okay, that's different from what
If
I'm.
you're coming at speed, you know, across. Going through down the road,
I would drive.
it's really bad. It's brand new, it's like,
I mean, are they sharp? Right, I guess I'm trying
no,
to,
it's like you're going like this, like a roller coaster. And the only other road that I know that's like that is, Larson Road by the new school. That was a brand new road there that they patched in there, it's terrible, you know, it's like,
I mean, are they the longitudinal where they're real? I mean, where you're gonna have curb and
take a
gutter?
drive down there once at highway speed. Just see what it's like,
So you're
It's-
talking on the intersection of
the new
Pioneer
road,
and
the
T,
new T,
probably going south
in
or
the-
north.
both sides, but it's in that area. It's terrible.
Well, I can talk to you after, I just assume all of the superintendents, we can go out there and ride it with you and you can show us what.
All you have to do is write it, you'll see it, you can't miss it.
And I mean, I've ridden that, I guess that's where I'm trying to find, I mean, is it just,
It's like this, it's like a roller coaster. You're going like this.
okay, I don't. Okay, I'll just talk to you afterwards and we can meet out there and, I mean, I guess I'm trying to,
I gotta go pick up my bus after this, unless it's real short.
well, or any other time that you could meet me out there to, I mean, one thing is the curb and gutter areas. Those are gonna be higher. And then it'll taper down. That whole project's made like that. If you go on Y here by the Sunnyview, if you look down that road, the whole road goes like this. And that's to accommodate the storm sewer. So you have to have that elevation to make it to the storm sewers. So I mean, if it's those like that, I guess, or is it just the ride in the vehicle that's rough? Is what I'm trying to,
Important updates, all 50 turkeys on the corner.
Excellent, maybe I'll see it. Just take a drive down there and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Number 8, discussion and design of Walker Ave, Leslie Road to the airport. Bobby, weren't you special?
so I'm assuming that, I mean, I know the new members here, but. At some point, there must have been some discussion, you approve funding for design. So I guess I'm looking for some information, I guess we did, Lori went back and we did find some documents in here, I mean. You know, when you look at this project, or, you know, from what I see in here, it was to eliminate the islands at the intersection of Poberezny and Waukau. Widen the road to a 4-lane urban cross-section and pedestrian accommodations.
Well, I
That
think the
was-
big thing was that when the EA had the tractor thing going on down there, they roughed all the sides. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They tore up all the sides.
Yep.
That was one of the big problems.
yeah, so I mean, we did, a few years back, we went through, we excavated all those bad spots out, we put breaker in. And we overlaid that, and knock on wood, it's still in decent condition despite those, you know, the shows that are in there in the spring. But obviously this is one of those roads that. You know, it's all city of Oshkosh in there, and I think, we were talking about those jurisdictional transfers with the city in those areas, and I think part of that agreement with Algoma, they vacated that area out there, so old Algoma is no longer in there. It's mostly city in there, so this is gonna be one of those roads that, you know, we're gonna spend money on design for this. And then obviously the funding part for construction. I drove that in there, I mean, the ditches are very deep. So when you look, what that means, there's a lot of water, and so we start looking at the deep ditches, that means large storm sewer. So storm sewer is gonna be substantial in that area. A 4-lane, cross section in there, curb and gutter, with pedestrian accommodations, which makes sense going into the EAA, airport in there. But once it's constructed. You know, there is some correspondence in here to the city of Oshkosh, with Ernie Winters and Dave Patek, that they would have no interest taking that over until there's a reconstruct, and at that point. So this is one of those that, you know, going forward, if we go through this design, and if we get to construction point of that, you know, what interest does the county have to be in there anymore? That would be one of those roads that you would look at as a jurisdictional transfer to the city. Just so you're aware of that. My recommendation is that we meet with the city of Oshkosh, EAA, and have a discussion on this, what everybody's, I mean, I'm sure the city of Oshkosh wants storm sewer in there. EAA has some thoughts of, you know, what they want to do with pedestrian accommodations on that roadway. You know, if you look at a concrete curb and gutter, obviously there's going to be no more of looking at the heavy truck traffic in the spring. That would alleviate those issues. One recommendation too that was in it was a roundabout at that intersection of Poveresti and Walkoff. So these are all things that are going to be coming up with as part of this discussions with this. So I just want to be upfront with everybody that these are the questions that are going to come up and concerns. Like I said, I think, you know, a meeting with, you know, airport, EAA, city of Oshkosh and the county is going to be a good starting place with this, to find out what everybody needs and wants and within this area.
Sure.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Years ago, my memory tells me that it was somewhat of a common practice for the county to upgrade roads, county roads that were adjacent to the city. And then we would actually turn it over to the city. Over the years, I've developed a very strong concern about that process. So I think it's better to either update the road and keep it, or turn it to the city and let them update it. We have priorities in this county that should be looked at way ahead of that practice, in my opinion.
I think when this was talked about a lot, one of the members on here was on the
What
airport.
was his name? I can't.
Bob Warranty.
Thank you.
He was on the airport also, and he figured that it should be more of a show place, and which it should be. I mean, we didn't have all these people in from all over, and you could see flags hanging from as they went down and everything. And then when they had the farm show come in, they started breaking that all off. And I think that's originally, David, you probably remember how it all got started. What kind of a place we got here for all these people all over the world coming in when we don't have any some road on there. And so some of these were dreams, and then we got talking about it, and then so that's how some of it got going.
yeah, and I agree with you 100%. I mean, this, you know, right now it's posted a Class B road. So if you look on Knapp Street on the city of Oshkosh down there, they ran into the same thing. Farm show came through, destroyed their road, sent them on walk off. You know, we had real bad spots go through there too. You know, with the events that go in there, I mean, whether it's the, you know, EAA or the farm show or the logging congress or any of those, I mean, you have heavy equipment coming in there consistently. You know, the road's definitely not built to handle that. We know that. We've seen it. Neither is Knapp Street. But this is one of those roads that, you know, going into the tower, the main feed in there, I think, you know, there's definitely benefits to reconstruct that road. As to what, I mean, that's where we're gonna have to sit down and, you know, what does the airport see for it? What does the EAA see? What does the city of Oshkosh? And what interests of us? I mean, and that's one thing too, like you mentioned, you know, what you spend a lot of money for this, but, you know, it's one of those where we could start looking at what funding is out there.
I thought there was a point where the EEA was gonna help pay for some of it.
I think they did, there was one in here, this is what that letter was, that they contributed $35,000 last time for the repairs in there. This was from 2017. And then there was another correspondence back in there from, Ernie Winters. And that was the correspondence to the city, and the city didn't want anything to do with it until something was done condition wise, which understandable. Nobody wants to, take a road and then have to, stick all the money into it. But this is one of those things, I mean, to move forward with this is, to
Sid,
look
would you
at.
take one of them cups and get me a cup of water?
I would do that, yeah.
So we look at what funding's available. Maybe at some point we look at what funding's out there and we look at, a lot of that funding, depending on what you get, is a 80-20. 20% local. And those are those discussions that you could have as we get further into this. But I think right now, I would say is that, I set up a meeting and we see what ideas, what people want in there, what ideas that they're thinking. So,
You're referring to an urban construction.
well, not necessarily. I mean, this was what was put in, back in 27 in June when they did the construction, that was a proposal that, I don't know when the highway committee approved the funding for design. I don't know what the specs were for design. I'm assuming that's what the design was based upon, was concrete islands. I mean, a 4-lane curb and gutter, storm sewer. I'm assuming that's what that funding was based upon, that criteria with that. Maybe that's not the needs of, maybe the city doesn't want storm sewer in there.
Well, the thing you gotta remember, that Bobby stated always, it is the showcase, the Winnebago County. I think you gotta remember that.
Sure. Yep, and I agree with that. I agree that this is gonna be your main entrance into this, and there's gonna
So
be a
if
lot
we
on
have to
there, so.
Money in next year's budget to do it or something should be done. But
Yeah, I just think for right now, I think what I'll do is I will set up a meeting with. City of Oshkosh, EAA, the airport. And throw it out there and see what their thoughts are. I'm sure EAA has their thoughts of what that road should be. City of Oshkosh is gonna have it, in the airport. So everybody can, at least we can get the ideas out there. That, I mean, for me to go in there and say, hey, this is what it should be, a 2-lane, no, we wanna, it's gonna be used, this is a big road and, so we wanna make sure that we do it right, so.
The 35,000 that EAA gave you before, was that just to fix the road, or have we already got that to go ahead and start the process?
Let's see here, it was a donation. Towards the project, it didn't specify. But I did say in here that 35,000 did cover the excavation, so those are those areas when we talk about poor soils. So those were the areas that there was no base under, so that those were excavated out, we were put large, 3-inch, 6-inch in there. So it did say in there that 35,000 did cover that excavation in those areas. And I think it was 350,000, if it rings a bell, that was in there, that for the overlay, that was done in there. So,
I just wanna bring up something from previous. On County Truck Highway T, that road was filled up with Model T frames, logs, and all the low spots years and years ago.
sure. Yeah, I saw the road was corduroyed, I saw the logs under there, yeah, definitely, I mean. And those are the things that, like, when you do soil borings, if you don't do them every 20 feet or 50 feet. I mean, they may be done every 100 feet or, 200. That's a long way, 100 feet or 200 feet, a lot can happen within those areas. And unfortunately, when you get into these roads like this. When they were constructed, they just dug the topsoil, put it in the middle and built a road on it. So.
Maybe we gotta spend a little more time or a little more money. doing the
Soil
soil
waste.
thing.
Yeah,
Go get a better picture of what's going
Sure.
on. You get burned enough.
Right, so that means putting more in your budgets too.
sure. So that was just a little update on that.
This hasn't been approved or?
So the funding, yeah, the funding has, I don't, it was before maybe 3-4 years ago, maybe. I can find out exactly.
Funding was approved to do design.
Design, correct?
Has not been done, or has,
No,
like years ago?
One of the former commissioners left, everything sat on a table over there in a folder.
oh,
I mean, you don't remember.
Where,
Yeah.
where did money go for that? Where is it?
it's still, so, and this is how,
It wasn't one of those for short years, so.
no, sir.
Nothing like that.
No.
Okay.
When we start going
So-
back and we look at, I mean, this is how, when we went through this, is that, with all the funding we were looking at, we went back and this was this was in that project. I had no idea it was in there.
How much is sitting there for this?
Um,
I'm not trying to.
yeah, it's a few $100,000, I believe, for design.
It probably costs more now to do it than 5 years ago.
I don't, what it depends on is the type of design that you're looking for, you know, I mean, you know, it's not a huge project, but when you start getting into like, if we put storm sewer in there, which it doesn't have now, obviously the price is gonna go way up because there's a lot of calculating for the hydraulics. If we don't put storm sewer in there, the price will be a lot lower. So my thought is that per this correspondence that went out, that's kind of what the thought was, that there's gonna be storm sewer in there, and that's why that design funding is a lot.
So way back at the time that they okayed to do the design, they really didn't get any input from the EAA or the city, or they just said, let's do a design. And then somebody can do it, and we sat there, so. File.
Kyle Sosnowski put up a great big stake in there, and then put a kibosh on a lot of it, then a hold up on all kinds of it's about all I got.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm just kind of, you know, picking this stuff up as we go here, and these are one of them that was out there, and we need to get rolling on it. Like I said, I kind of been digging through and we pulled out files and to get more information with it. Like I said, I didn't even know there was funding out there for this till just recently, so.
First, then the other question comes is, at the end of the year, when we do our accounting for the county, when they go through this. You know, I'm not saying you, but why didn't they find this, say, years ago, say, hey, by the way, you guys still got this, we haven't done it, what are you gonna do?
I'm sure this is all gonna change. This is all gonna change moving forward. These are all good changes that need to be made.
And it's just weird, because, you know, we only go 2 years. Every 2 years, so this whole idea of thought was from somebody that might not be here, and
Right.
now new ideas come in and. Yeah.
He brings up a good point. How do you know where that money's sitting, or do you know where that money's sitting? In case it was a project just like we had on T here.
So.
Well, this money's sitting here, so we can go ahead and use this.
So, and I think if you remember back with the finance director, when Paul was talking about how the money's lumped in and then the departments put aside a number, you know, a 3817 or a project number. So that's internally that we use for that number. That's the project from finance that we use. So it does have a project number assigned to it. I'm assuming that it's all still there. So, yeah, I mean,
But you don't know for sure.
right, so,
It's crazy, like the list of things that they're gonna borrow from to help pay this. I guess I had no idea that all that money was sitting in little piles and nobody.
Right.
did anything with it, you know, I mean, and now you're bringing up another one. I mean, first thing comes to my mind is, how many more piles might there be?
There's tons of.
There's tons of them.
I mean, I'm hoping that
Not
this,
this committee just.
Yeah, I know.
yeah, I mean, this is the one, this is the only one that I didn't know was out there. And as to where we were with it until not, I mean, recently I just started diving into this and getting more information with it,
And
so.
this is one important, because I mean, I've been working at EA the last 3 years, and I know the road is kind of like bad. And I didn't know that for years they could be, maybe have done something.
Yeah.
Holy cow, you know.
I mean, one thing is that once, typically what happens is when, if you do a mill and an overlay on a project and you receive funding, that means that that section of road is good for 10 years. So you will not be qualified for any funding in that 10 years, okay? So, if it only makes it 7 years, you try to get funding, you're not gonna get it until that 10th year. You're gonna have to patch it in or to make it to that 10th year. So a lot of times that's what happens is you will do, once you start seeing your sub base getting bad, that's when you have to start looking at reconstruct. If you can get by, if you're not to that point, you can get the mill and the overlays to buy you that time. Usually that'll buy you that 10 years, then you need to start looking at a reconstruct at that point, so.
Probably last question, was there any more in that pile that used to be there? Now that you brought that, cause now I never thought of that.
I mean, this is the only one that we found that was just kind of sitting there.
Okay.
Like I said, we just, last week I had, we started pulling through files and getting. So that's why most of the morning I spent going through all this file to try and get more information.
When you find it, when you were working on your budget, is that how you found it, or?
Well, part of that, yeah, it's when we start going through when. When all these money that's out there, yeah, this is one of those that was.
A lot of that
was sitting
information
there.
left when the finance director left.
What's the date on it there?
2017.
Whoops, that's all, I just wonder.
Okay.
So like.
Yeah. Well, like I said, some of these correspondence go back, I mean. This one's back to 2015 with Ernie Winters. So a lot of this. The talk started back in 2015, and look where we're at today. So a lot of this conversation did start a long time ago.
You'll
I guess-
know more after your meeting.
Yeah, and I think
Okay,
that's
yeah.
the best thing to do is then we sit down, we get ideas from the EA. They got a grand scheme, what they would like to see come in there. Airport, city, I'm sure the city wants to see exactly the gateway coming in there. From the highway, all we look at is maintenance. What do we have to plow? Is it gonna be concrete or is it gonna be asphalt? We don't care if it's 4 lane, 6 lane, 10 lane. As far as the maintenance part, so.
We have a report on that, on our next agenda, this meeting.
Hopefully, if I can get that meeting set up with everybody, the only thing now is like some of these. This Jack Pelton, CEO, I don't know if he's there anymore.
Yeah, I mean, they've been changing like.
Yeah, so for me, I mean, it's not gonna be a hard thing. I mean, I'll get a hold of Jim at the airport. Jim should be maybe get in contact with that, and it's just setting up that we can meet. So I would sure hope I can get that, and then we can at least have an idea what we're looking for that to move forward. So yeah, if I can get all that set up, yes, I will have it on that next agenda.
When you get a hold of them, don't let his arrogance take over.
Okay.
Okay. Number 9, discussion drainage issue, County Trunk Highway E by Rush Lake property.
I had this added on there, so that gentleman could come in and speak. I know you can come in like Sid does in the beginning, but thought maybe we wanted to talk about this a little bit, so David wasn't feeling well, so I asked if I could add this on there. So I had this put on there. I thought he did a good job explaining it. We've heard about this now for however many years. I see Commissioner Damel's got the pictures all right there, I think, that he sent to us.
Yep.
Last year, yeah.
So Chuck, last time Chuck was gonna have Chad Casper or Land and Water look at this, he did. He had Melanie Lee look over, I mean. His first thing is here. Isn't a good solution to this issue. First of all, that's what they came up with. I mean, if you go back to, you can go back to 2012, this email here says a lot.
2012?
Yep, this one goes back to 2012. Where it discusses the drainage used to go through, under this pipe and out into this area. Then it goes back in, then it starts about how the house was built and blocked this waterway. It went back to Cary Road zoning. This comes back and it says that it wasn't under county jurisdiction, that the town planning approved the building of the house and the location and everything. So you know, these are ones, I mean, you can read this one, I mean, this. You know, this one drove by several times and commented on the horse blank in the ditch. You know, if it was as simple as diverting water from one side of the road to the other, I think there's a little bit bigger issue here. This is, I mean, it's waste from a barn. And talking with these people out there, I mean, that's the biggest issue is, you know, he wants, obviously, he's got flooding issues on, he wants to get rid of that water, but if you go by his property, I mean, it slopes all to the ditch, so all that animal waste goes into that ditch and goes to the culvert. Now you have the neighbors that built that house. Now they have that standing yard waste sitting in their ditch. It doesn't travel through there before. We did talk to the property owners. We had a negotiated handshake that, and something happened. Somebody talked to somebody and they said, we do not want to get involved with this. So we had a potential idea to try to disperse some of this water. And it sounds like there's a lot of animosity out there with the neighbors and this, I don't want nothing to do with it anymore. I mean, I guess we can go and just dig a hole in front of these people's property and let it sit in front of the neighbors. But
Why can't we just clean out the ditch?
well, that's what it's just gonna sit there. Cause that house that was
I mean,
built,
the ditch. You have to maintain the ditch, it's our ditch, correct? Don't we have to maintain that
Yeah, but it
ditch,
has
has to
to-
correct,
but it has to go somewhere.
There's
So
been
the-
water standing in that hole for 70 years since I was a kid
So
that I
this,
can remember.
this house wasn't here pre-existing, so all this water flows out of here and went across, and it just went through this. This house was built here, now there's the house was built, I mean, everything was filled in, there's a mound system that blocks that. So now there's nowhere for that water to go, it's blocked now. And that's why we were looking, I mean,
but why don't we clean out the ditch? The ditch is supposed, there's a spec to that ditch, correct, how deep it's supposed to be?
and we can, if that's the direction we wanna go, I think you're gonna have the neighbor inside now come over, I don't want all this in my yard.
He's the one that blocked it.
He had the permits, he was approved to build his house there.
Yeah, but the ditch is supposed to be at this certain depth, correct?
Yeah, but that water went into that ditch and then spilled out into that water, like, I don't even wanna call it water, it was just a low. It just went through
So
there.
why are we allowing this guy to fill in the ditch, not cleaning it out? I don't understand that. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, I've never seen any video, you go out there, I mean, grass clippings, I don't.
But we have the drawings that says how deep this ditch is supposed to be, correct? Why don't we
You know,
go out there and dig
I
it
mean,
to that
after
depth?
after he built his house, I mean, they contoured in, I mean, we can go out there and go by his culvert elevation. I mean, I
There's no drawings on how deep we dug that ditch originally?
mean, I don't think there's any construction plans for County Road E. I
I
don't
would
even
say they
remember
set
the
the
last time it
backhoe out
was,
there and they dug it out.
yeah. I mean, I can look for design plans, I don't remember ever seeing design plans for E.
I'll tell you what, if I filled in my ditch, I don't think I'd get away with it.
Chuck,
Land and Water did go and look at this property, and we have to separate, if you're talking about private property and municipal property. Ditches are under municipal. Right away.
You know, read through those, or-
We couldn't do anything to force the private property owner to reestablish a water course.
Correct.
So it would come.
The DNR could though.
Overflow through a culvert onto his private property and would go to a wetland in the back.
The
We could
DNR
not
could do
force
that. We could.
But filling in a municipal ditch, whether it be town or county, is basically a violation of law. I mean, we have an ordinance that provides you can't do that. Our responsibility is to enforce the ordinance. So if somebody filled up that ditch, they need to unfill it. That's simple. Where the water's gonna go to solve this problem, it's gonna go and not sit on a private property's position. It'll sit in the ditch in front of the park. They don't own the ditch. We own the ditch. So if the water's gonna sit in the ditch and it's got manure in it, I guess you go
So-
to that spot.
I don't sit here, I mean, it's the same
That's the way
situation
it
out
is.
there.
Yeah.
It's the same situation for these people out in Algoma. And, I mean. You know, that's the thing, I mean, yeah, we can direct it, but
Yeah,
that
but I
water
thought-
used to spill out, but they built their house in there. It should have never been permitted to block that waterway.
That's correct.
I
That is a
thought
true
we had made some arrangements beforehand for this. Wasn't there something okay before? This is what I'm getting at.
I thought originally, I wasn't gonna say anything, but I thought originally that you guys were gonna go out there and do this. And I can understand where you're coming from, but yeah,
When you say
the
do this,
the township should have given them that. But it's our ditch, the county's ditch, whether the township gave it to him or not.
Yes.
So that's just like, if it's in front of our house and our culvert isn't working, you guys will come out and take care of it, even though it's on a state highway, but it'll be taken care of. Water's gonna be running through there one way or another, if it's gotta be running through.
It's gonna be standing. water.
Right, so
And I mean,
I
I
understand
can,
it looks like, excuse me, hell, with that manure gonna go through there, but if water's sitting up on there and they make manure in that, so they're gonna have piles there, and so, but once it gets going, it's gonna keep washing if the water runs. If the water is running, it'll keep washing down.
right, and it's not, it's stagnant sitting in his ditch. And, I mean, we've been, like I said, we went out there in good faith and talked to surrounding property owners. And, I mean, there's bad blood out there. I mean, one thing is I wouldn't send my crew out there. This is gonna turn in this. There's gonna be law enforcement and this is not a good situation out there. You know, and like I said, I can tell you, they're not gonna be happy with all that waste sitting there, and I don't know, I mean, is there ordinances against
The barn was there.
barn waste?
The barn was there first.
What was that solution you said?
And they blocked it.
So where that house sat. There's like a wooded area that goes off, I think to the east. And that property owner originally talked about, you know, letting us cut a little swale to try to, the water's not, it's just gonna kind of sit in there, pool in there. And then, like I said, there was discussions amongst neighbors and then he immediately absolutely wants nothing to do with it. So, I mean, the elevations, I mean, land and water, I mean, those, we pulled all the elevations, it's,
At one time, wasn't there a waterway on the west side of that?
and the house was
Sorry,
built
let's
to
say the
block
south
it.
side,
Yeah, and that
southwest, yeah.
was a split gabber.
Right,
So they built in there and then, I mean, supposedly then blocked that natural course of water just spills out there. I mean, it wasn't a drainage way, it wasn't a navigable waterway, it was just a low lying area.
It's called a water course, natural
Correct.
water course,
Yes.
and they cannot be blocked under state law.
They did it.
Enforceable by the town.
It's all okay. Probably do it.
Yeah, obviously you got one of those situations where, shouldn't have been done.
I mean, the planning commission approved it.
If it was me. If it was me, I'd go to the DNR and say, this is blocking this water course. And. All we can do is. Put the ditch back to where it's supposed to be.
I agree with
And
that.
our
That's our job, and,
our job is done.
yeah. They got a little smell in their ditch in front of the house.
That's because
Come
they
out
blocked
back,
the water
when
course.
Sunday and Overton clean out there. No, that's
they
country,
should have walked it.
gentlemen, that's
Was
country.
that the people on the corner of T and one of those roads, T and Brooks or T, but he had sewage from his barn yard running right into the, this was quite a few years back, running right into his, right into the ditch.
Could be. Could have been an overflow situation. Yeah, that could be.
General operations.
Are we, if I might ask, Mr. Chairman, are we agreed that the focus of the committee is, go out and start cleaning out ditches?
Like I said, I don't think we wanna put our crews in that.
No, you
Disposition.
just get John to
In-
bring a couple squads out, that'll take care of it.
So you're overruling us? that-
Not whatsoever, not whatsoever.
So you're not gonna clean out the ditch?
I didn't say that, not whatsoever. I mean, if so you're directly ordering me to clean the ditch out.
I would like you to,
Okay, so I'll take that as direct order from Don.
I can order you to dig out the ditch.
No, the committee can by. That's a function of the committee, we set policy for the department.
Policy and budget, right?
Yeah.
I think John can overrule us, because remember that.
But I don't, why should we go to that? I mean, if that's the direct order, then, I mean, I don't know how,
We'll get to that.
Yeah, well, that's coming up next,
I mean,
yeah.
cause the direct word was, it's tough, you got water sitting in there, now we're gonna force this in front of that guy. Tough, you gotta deal with it now. So,
Our responsibility is,
and like I said, I
Not
did
to
not,
allow.
I mean, I did not directly disobey you, whatever, I know, whatever. So that's what you thought, but
It would, to me, it seemed like you were sweeping it under the rug.
not whatsoever, I don't sweep anything under the rug. I take my job very serious.
So what are we gonna do?
You direct me to go out there to ditch, dig it out and make that guy take the water. So that's what we'll do.
We can just order you to do that?
You just told me you were going to.
If you're gonna look at it, I think you should put the ditch at the level it's supposed to be. Yeah, I don't think you should make it any deeper.
Can I-
than-
Right, so how, and that's the thing is I'm gonna go out there, we're gonna say, hey, we're gonna put this back in, he's gonna say. Who's to just say what the original existing depth of the ditch was, I mean. You know,
Bob, I think you know what our intent is. I mean. They would like you to look at it.
Either that, or you can have Mary Ann draft a letter to them and say that county will coming out because of this, and that, not because of the manure, but because you're filling in the
Yeah,
ditch
you
and that
cannot
ditch has to be
fill
left
in.
open.
county ditch. Or town ditch,
And they would let you know that they're coming out, and
yeah.
if you feel they gotta have a sheriff, then they have a sheriff.
well, I think that's the best route
Right,
to go.
I
mean,
wouldn't want
think it's-
anyone
This
to
is
get
gonna
hurt.
have to go legal, I mean, it's gonna be a legal issue out there.
So that will be coming from us, but we should talk to Mary Ann and have her send out a letter then. To both of them, put it. You're coming out on such and such date. And your approximates, on such date.
Still put in there that we're micromanaging. General operations.
Just a couple things, one of our new trucks came, parked right out there, so that's the second of the 2 trucks that were ordered.
We've been observing it.
Yeah,
Since about
so those
8:30.
were ordered over 2 years ago. So we
Where'd
just
they
got
come
them
from?
today,
On the truck,
correct.
2 years now.
So the winter equipment is separate. So just the truck and chassis comes from Quality, the winter equipment's separate. So we did get, so that is the second of them. The first one we received has been at Quality for, warranty work. We haven't seen it. It's been, I don't know, maybe a month, maybe longer been at Quality, so. So yeah, so we got that. Just one other thing I wanted to touch is County Road P project. We have a public information meeting Tuesday, August 29th at the Fox Crossing Community Center in the Maple Room from 4:30 to 7 PM discussing that project. This will be the second final meeting for that project. I did get, Tom Borchert. I sent a lot of information to Tom. He had a lot of questions from up there. I got him all the information up there. So should be good. So that project, all we're waiting for now is, environmental study to be completed. We're just waiting for that study from approval from the, DOT. So once that gets approved, then we can start moving. And then we do have, we did get a contract for right-of-way acquisition, so they are starting the process, but they cannot do anything till that environmental study gets done. So we're hoping that that is done here shortly, so we can keep moving on with that. One other thing too, the DOT has approved, or they're gonna purchase a new high-capacity brine maker. So this is gonna be huge for our department. Our old brine maker is, I've maybe 15, 17 years old. This new high-capacity one should give us, we should be able to put out, 5,000-6,000 gallons an hour. So the way this works, the state purchases it, and then after 10 years, we will purchase that from them for $1. That'll be handed over to the county after 10 years.
It's gonna be here.
Yeah, it'll be here in our building, so we will store it and, so we can still use it for our county roads and everything with that, so. So hopefully we hear more with that, as far as, delivery, and we're hoping to have that in by this fall. So
So will our old one be sold then?
we're gonna hang on to it till we make sure this one runs. So this winter, we're probably gonna keep it just as a backup, just in case, to make sure that this new one, we don't have any issues with it. And then at that point, yeah, I guess, I don't, it's pretty used. We'll definitely try if we can sell it, whatever we can do with it. So. And then, yeah, that was about it. That's all I had.
Well, I guess I have a question of them, being that we talked about the other, have you gone out and looked at the culvert out there on, by E out there, Sid's place out there?
Yep, it was out there. They looked at it. A lot of the damage, it looks like from woodchucks. A lot of holes from woodchucks. We saw woodchucks coming out of some of the holes. So yeah, we were out there. We did inspect it.
So it need to be replaced?
At some point, yeah, whether we do slip liners or at some point, yeah, we're probably gonna replace them.
What about the sinkhole in the shoulder?
Yeah, we looked at the whole thing out there.
And I mean, you're just gonna leave that, keep getting bigger, or are you gonna fill it in, or?
I can talk to John again or Mike, who was out there, and find out if they sent someone out there. I'm assuming that it was taken care of, but if it, since that it wasn't filled in. So yeah, we can definitely take a look at that right away. So,
Have you guys mowed out there again? Look like somebody mowed, I'm just asking.
yes, we mowed, yes, contrary, we mowed out there.
I know you did
You
once.
mowed one time, but I'm mowing myself to try to keep it so that we only got I don't want you guys to spend hours and hours out there. I take my pull behind my four-wheeler, and I'm trying to narrow it.
Yeah, I did see somebody was, it was funny if you had been out there the second time. Okay,
Yep,
that's-
and then Ronnie Miller's been, he said it once the wheat was off there, we could go out there and get from there, and as wet as it, I really don't wanna run his field up and cause damage out there with our mower. We had the mower out there, I'm sure you saw the ruts.
Yeah, I see the rush, and when I talked to Ronnie Miller, he told you the wheat was off, so you guys could have run right out there when it was dry.
Yep.
But I don't know where you're getting wet, we haven't got any rain, so good for
How
you
deep are
guys.
the ruts out there?
Oh, I know the ruts
The
down by,
ruts are- I know, he was.
down by
we had to-
Horseshoe
we
Road
couldn't-
are terrible.
Yeah, we had to call somebody to pull them out, they're horrible. So,
Yeah, you got it. Also, if I might remind you, I
Yeah.
requested some signage on GG last October.
at the railroad tracks,
That would be just west of the railroad tracks on Calling Farms. They want a farm crossing sign. And then there was some signage for that horse farm up there just on the west side of the intersection of Wooden Shoe and GG.
yeah, I can double check with the sign shop, I don't know if we if there is such signing anymore, but if
Well,
we
I know
gotta
you
have
got
some made,
farm crossings, you're gonna have to make up some.
yeah, there will have to be made, but, okay. I'll get those locations right after meeting, exactly where you want them.
I just was gonna mention, I got, I can't say it, never.
Me too. He's got cancer, kidney cancer in that, so,
It's good.
so. Pretty rough right now, so that's. Some of the things, if you call him or whatever, you might not be able to answer right then.
We'll pray for you.
We'll certainly pray for you. Yes, sir. There's nothing else, I'll move to adjourn.
They're coming up with a treatment plan this Friday.
Is it both kidneys or just one?
Well,
We wish you the best.
Yeah.
That's what we're thinking of here.
Can they take it out?
I'm too old. With my other illnesses,
Oh, because that would be an option, sure.
I'll second your adjournment.
Next day.
September 18.
right?